This is Jennifer Gonzalez welcoming you to episode 22 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast. In this episode, I'm going to share 3 hacks that solve big school problems. Hey, it is so great to be back. I took a little bit of time off this summer just to kind of plan things and get some new episodes into the pipeline. And I'm back with what we're going to go ahead and call season 2. And so really happy to be here. Just give you a little bit of information before I get started on today's topic. I have got some new icebreakers available for you. If you're a teacher, especially if you're a 6 through 12 teacher, and you want to start the year off with some great icebreakers to kind of help the kids get to know each other, I have created a set of 3 really good ones. I've got them on PowerPoint, so all you do is you just load that PowerPoint up, you put it in slideshow mode, and each one of these is just, it's like a conversation starter. So one of them is called This or That, where you basically put up a question, and if the student disagrees with the statement, they move all the way to one side of the room, and if they agree with the statement, they move all the way to the other, and then they've got to kind of argue about what their opinion is on that. There's another one where students have to sort of line up, like they'll have to line up in birthday order, or they have to line up by order of their shoe size, or they'll have to like gather up together with other students who share something in common with them, students who all have the same favorite season of the year or something like that. And so what's nice about these games is that they don't really require the students to like embarrass themselves or do anything really corny. They're just really genuine ways of getting students to discover things that they have in common and just start talking about who they are, but without it being, they don't have to come up with the topics themselves. I was going to originally create a list of icebreakers that I just found online. I was just going to kind of list them and link to them, but a lot of them that I found, it kind of just reminded me that so many icebreakers out there are just really kind of corny and don't really help students get to know each other that well. So I figured, what did I do with my students? So I pulled these together, I created some nice PowerPoints, and those are available. And you can find them by going to cultofpedagogy.com. If you click on resources and then go to products for your classroom, you will find a section that is on icebreakers, and you can take a look at those and see if any of them interest you. Okay, so let's get to today's topic. We're going to be talking about 3 hacks that can solve big teacher problems. Earlier this year, and this is 2015 that I'm talking in, I started having a lot of conversations with another education writer. His name is Mark Barnes, and he runs another education website called Brilliant or Insane. And we started talking a lot about some of the creative things that we were aware of that some educators were doing to solve problems. And one of the things that we were starting to notice about some of these solutions was that they were kind of hacky. They were not things that were expensive. The solutions that people were implementing were just creative ideas where they were putting together things that were already available to them in creative and different ways. And so after talking about a couple of these, we started to kind of put together an idea that maybe we should pull them all together into a book. And so at that point in time, we had about 4 or 5 of them. And so then we did some more research and some more thinking. And what we ended up with is our book, which is now available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. And the title of the book is Hacking Education, 10 Quick Fixes for Every School. And so basically, the book is 10 different ideas that solve some of the biggest problems that educators face. And the idea of something being a quick fix is off-putting to some people because they say, the problems that we face are too complicated for quick fixes and there are no silver bullets. And I would definitely agree, and I know Mark would definitely agree with that there are a lot of systemic issues that wouldn't respond to a quick fix. But that doesn't mean that we can't be creative and try to solve some things in innovative ways. So in this book, what we do is we take 10 different problems, and for each one we explain what the problem is. Then we describe a hack that can sort of solve it. We show you how you can put that hack into action tomorrow. Right away you can start implementing this. Then we give you a fuller blueprint for really doing a long-term full implementation of the hack. Then we talk a little bit about pushback, what to say or what to do when you get objections to this idea. Because with any new idea for change, there will always be people who will be skeptical about it. They will say, oh, this isn't going to work because of that, or we can't try this because of this, or I don't want to do this because of that. And so we've tried to sort of think through those objections and provide some really good responses, not necessarily to shut down anybody, but to sort of help people to see the logic of why the hack could work. And so after the pushback section, the very last part for each hack is we show the hack in action. We give you an example of a real teacher or a real school actually using the solution and how it's working for them. So what I thought I would like to do for this podcast episode is share with you 3 of the hacks from our book so that you have some idea of what the book is about, and also so that you can start taking these ideas into your school right now and trying them. So the first hack I'm going to talk about is something I'm calling cloud meetings. And here is basically the idea of a cloud meeting. Well, first of all, the problem that cloud meetings solve is the problem of meetings taking too much of our time as teachers. We have very limited time during the school day, and for a lot of teachers, a good part of that time is taken up with meetings. Department meetings, PLC meetings, faculty meetings after school, meetings even with parents, and meetings just special ed meetings. There's just tons and tons of meetings that eat up a lot of our time during the day. Well, this was actually the very first hack that we sort of came up with that gave us even the idea for this book. If you can start moving some of your meetings to the cloud, you can save yourselves a lot of time. And this is what I mean by moving meetings to the cloud. Right now, we have the technology available to us to almost entirely eliminate face-to-face meetings. So this is what I mean by technology. And by the way, the 10 hacks in this book are not technology heavy. There are a few that kind of rely on technology. All the others are really, really low tech or no tech. So, and you'll see what I mean when I talk about the other 2. So here's what I mean by cloud meetings. Instead of everybody gathering together in the library after school for a faculty meeting, what you could do instead is you could set up an online cloud system like Google Drive or Dropbox, and I'm going to call this a bin, a place to basically dump documents. So, for example, instead of using your meeting agenda, having that distributed at the meeting, and suppose at the meeting you want to distribute an agenda and then 2 other sort of handouts. One of them is maybe a schedule for something, and maybe another is like an article that you want everybody to read. So instead of having to distribute these face-to-face at a meeting, an administrator, for example, could put all of these into a Dropbox folder and send everyone in the school a link to that saying, for this week's meeting, you need to go to this Dropbox folder and download these documents and read them, and then do whatever it is you want them to do with these documents. So that takes care of the need to hand out documents face-to-face. Okay, then there's the discussion piece. So we've got our bin for the distribution of stuff. But in a meeting, you need to talk. You need to talk about things. The person running the meeting needs to say a lot of stuff, and then they need to get people talking back to them so that decisions can be made. That's when you need a back channel. And a back channel is basically any form of communicating with people where you're not really doing it face to face. And it could be lots and lots of people. So one way that this can be done is through a smartphone app called Voxer, which is really a simple thing you can add to your smartphone. And it's sort of like voicemail, but you're not digging into a phone number where you have to press a bunch of buttons and listen to the message and then play it back. It's all kind of visual. It almost looks like an inbox with play buttons, and you just play one and then you play the next one, you play the next one, and these are all people having a conversation. And in a Voxer chat, you can have lots and lots of people talking. back and forth in a long string, almost like a comment thread on a blog post, except it's all voice. So the way that you would have a meeting in the cloud is you can say, okay, this week's meeting is going to start on Monday and it's going to end on Wednesday. Okay, your deadline to get everything done is on Wednesday. On Monday, everybody, here are the links to the documents. Grab them when you can, read them, and then by Wednesday, you need to have gone into Voxer and answered these few questions. So everybody goes into the same Voxer chat room. You discuss things back and forth. By the end of the day, Wednesday, everybody has made a decision about this, that, and the other, and the meeting, quote unquote, is done. The nice thing about this is that nobody had to be in the same place at the same time. You were able to have this meeting without actually having to all show up and be in the same place. And you only participate to the level that is relevant to you. So if there is a conversation going on about a certain department and a decision they have to make, you don't have to be involved in that. That could be a side back channel conversation. You also don't have to sit around and wait for other people to have those conversations the way you would in a traditional meeting when there are side conversations going on and you have to just sort of sit and listen to them. None of that in a back channel conversation, because there can be several going on and then everybody can kind of meet back up again in the same main back channel conversation and the decision is done and everybody kind of goes home, except that you're in your car or you're washing dishes, listening on your headphones. And so the meeting can actually take place right on this app, and everybody can kind of go about their day the way that they need to at that time. And teacher time is so precious, and this is a way of really conserving it. Now, one of the pushbacks to this is that how are we ever going to build rapport in our staff if we never meet face to face? Well, that's the thing. You can take care of your practical matters and your, sort of administrative stuff through these cloud meetings, and then you can just plan social gatherings for everybody to get together and just like hang out and have bagels before school in the morning, or celebrate somebody's wedding shower after school or something like that. You can only get together for social occasions instead of always having to hammer out little administrative details that could be handled at some other time in some other private conversation. So that is the first hack: meetings in the cloud. And the problem that it solves is that it gives teachers a lot more time, free time to do other things that they need to get done for their teaching. The second hack is what we are calling pineapple charts. Pineapple has been traditionally a symbol of welcome. You see pineapples on welcome mats and welcome signs on doors. I'm not sure exactly why it is, but it is. And so that's the connection to pineapple charts, is the symbol of welcome. Here's what a pineapple chart is. A pineapple chart is a whiteboard or any type of a large board that is kept in a place where a lot of teachers go. So it could be in the faculty lounge, it could be right by the teachers' mailboxes, it could be above the copy machine, wherever is a place where a lot of teachers go. And it's a calendar of the week. So if you imagine across the top, you would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and across the left-hand column, you'd have all the different class periods of the day, okay? And what happens on this chart is that teachers will write down something interesting that they are doing in their classes that week. So, for example, if a teacher is going to try a new instructional technique, they can write, Wednesday, third period, I am trying this technique. If a teacher is going to be doing a fun activity with students that they think other people would like to see, they can put Monday morning, fifth period, I'm going to be doing that. If there's a new technology that's going to be, somebody's going to try it out, or maybe they're not trying it out, but they've gotten really good at it, and other people have said, oh, I'd like to do that. When are you doing that? They can put that on the calendar. What this becomes is a big advertisement to all of the other teachers of open door lessons that are happening in the building that they can go visit. The teacher who has written their lesson on there is basically saying, you can come and see this. I'm inviting anybody who wants to come and watch. And the problem that this solves, and this one isn't really like a serious problem, but so much of our professional development is stuff that is not customized to our needs as teachers. And also schools are always short on budget for helping teachers grow in their skills. But in our buildings, we've got such rich sources of professional development all over the place. All of the other teachers that we work with know something that we could benefit from. But we rarely go into each other's classrooms to observe. And there are a lot of reasons for this. One is time. We all need to use our planning periods and our free time for doing our own stuff. Another is that we don't know if we're welcome. We don't know, if it would be okay to just, sometimes I've walked past another teacher's classroom and heard something interesting, but I didn't really know if I could just walk in and sit down. It depends on the relationship I have with that teacher. Unless I'm explicitly told, yeah, you can come in on this day at this time, I'm probably not going to walk right into their room and just watch what they're doing. I might lurk outside the classroom and listen for a few minutes, but that's probably the extent. So not knowing that you're welcome is a problem. And another thing is, even if I was invited to observe, I might not know if I'm going to enjoy the lesson or get anything out of it. So I might not want to kind of walk in, hang out in the back, and then realize, this is not for me. I don't know what to do. And so if you create a pineapple chart and start encouraging teachers to use it, you're changing the culture of your school into something that is a little bit more fluid and open. And, and I think part of implementing this is saying to the staff, this advertisement or this invitation, you can come in for 5 minutes or you can come in for the full hour. You don't necessarily have to stay, because this is not a formal observation. This is not one of those times when you're sitting down filling out paperwork and recording everything you see. We're just trying to learn from each other. And so having something like a pineapple chart really, really facilitates this. One of the questions that I got when we were working on this idea was, what about overcrowding? How are you going to prevent 20 people from showing up in somebody's room all at once? Well, one thing that solves that is the fact that we just don't have our planning periods at the same time. You're not going to have 50 to 60% of the building on planning at any one time. And that's when we'll be able to visit each other's rooms, is when we actually have a free class period. The other thing is you can always just set a limit. You can set a limit on the chart that says a limit of 3 visitors. So if somebody comes in and the room's already crowded, then they go away and they come back some other time. The idea of this is that it's informal and it's flexible and it's casual. And this is the opposite of formal observations. So that is a pineapple chart. That is the second of the 3 hacks. We've got the cloud meetings, pineapple charts. The third one is called teacher quiet zones. The problem that teacher quiet zone solves is the problem of frequent interruptions during planning. So we all get some sort of designated planning period or planning time during the day, some free time to get things done. Unfortunately, so much of the time, that time is eaten away by other things. One of them is meetings, which if you start implementing more cloud meetings, you're going to get more of that time back. But a lot of those interruptions are just sort of by chance. We are in our room with the door open, we get started working, and then somebody just sticks their head in and asks a question, and then before we know it, 15 minutes have gone by because we're having a conversation. This is actually not a bad thing, because it's important to build relationships with our colleagues and, continue to build our school culture and have a friendly environment. However, sometimes the timing is just not good. And some of us, we know ourselves, we can get roped into different kinds of conversations, and before we know it, our planning time is over. Or we'll be in our room doing something and a student will stop by and they'll have a question or they'll need something. And there can just be all kinds of different interruptions. And sometimes you just need to be able to concentrate and get your work done. So what some schools have done is they've created quiet zones that are designated for teachers to do their work, and they have been sort of marked off as do not disturb areas. And so the school has set up an agreement with everybody that this is the area. If a teacher is here, they're not to be disturbed. They're here because they are trying to get work done. So the teachers will bring papers to grade or a laptop to work on, or something that's obviously not very noisy. This is not going to be like kind of cutting and assembling large, things, but quiet work that needs to get done. And so what schools who are doing this are using is they're getting creative. Again, this is something that's hacky. Some are realizing there's this one underutilized conference room, and so let's just designate that as the teacher quiet zone. And they're putting a sign on the outside of it and posting some rules about, what can and can't happen in this room in terms of like cell phone conversations and none of that. And it's working. Teachers are getting some work done. They're able to sort of have peace and quiet for 20 minutes or however long they're able to get in there and use it. And because it's already been discussed ahead of time, there's not that sort of social risk of offending people because you're saying, look, I got to get work done. You got to leave me alone. It's sort of understood that, we're going to respect this person's time. It's a clearer message, basically, than even shutting your own door in your classroom, because sometimes people take that to mean, well, they need quiet, but it's okay for me to come in and talk to them. And so designating these areas as teacher quiet zones, it allows us to maximize our planning time. One of the pushbacks to this is that we just have no space. And this is where hackiness and creativity come into play. One school, there was just a kind of a back supply room, like a back room of the library, but it was big enough to fit a couple of desks in. And so this school just used that. They just said, this is going to be it. And they moved a couple of things around to make some space. And I mean, these are basically places for us to hide during the school day, but you kind of need that sometimes. You need that break from the noise and the craziness and the interruptions so that you can actually get some stuff done. So teacher quiet zones is the third of the 3 hacks that I wanted to share with you in this podcast. The book has 10, and I love every single idea, and it was really, really fun to put these together because a couple of them come from my own experience or Mark's own experience in the classroom, and a whole lot more come from people that we just talked to and we heard about certain things. And what was neat is that when we were writing the book, we had a pretty solid, 7 or 8 in place, and then we were kind of looking around to see, we really wanted it to have 10 strong ones. And what was great was that while we were working on the book, we would come across an article or a comment in a after a blog post, and all of a sudden we'd see this idea and we would call each other and say, this is it. Oh my gosh, this is our hack number 9 or whatever it was. We reorganized things quite a bit as we were writing, but we would sort of discover another hack, another teacher or school using something that was just so creative and innovative and affordable and simple that we knew that it really fit the profile of a hack. So to find this book, you just would go on Amazon and look for Hacking Education, 10 Quick Fixes for Every School. And this is by myself, Jennifer Gonzalez, and Mark Barnes. You can also learn more about the book by going to hacklearningseries.com, and that is actually the website because Mark is actually going to be publishing a long series of these books. This is the first one, but he is going to be hacking other school problems. One is going to be hacking assessment. Another is going to be hacking the Common Core. So there's going to be a whole long series of these that he's going to be writing with other authors and having other authors take on these big topics and come up with fast solutions. So if you go to hacklearningseries.com, you'll find information on all of those other books. So that is all for episode 22. A couple of reminders before I let you go. One is, if you are enjoying the Cult of Pedagogy podcast, I would so appreciate you going over to iTunes and leaving the podcast a rating and a review if you have time. Doing this really helps sort of pull us up in the rankings, and it allows other people to find this podcast. Basically, in iTunes, you can't really be found if you don't have ratings and reviews. So that would be wonderful. Also, if you are sort of just finding me through this podcast, I want you to know that I also have a whole website called Cult of Pedagogy, and I basically make it my mission every day to provide things for teachers to help them do their jobs better. So if you go over to cultofpedagogy.com, You will find book reviews and discussions of instructional strategies and learning research and technology, and also just some of the emotions and social stuff about teaching that really impacts the work that we do. There's tons and tons of stuff on there. I've got videos. I've got products that you can use in your classroom, so go visit me at cultofpedagogy.com, and you can find me on Twitter at cultofpedagogy. And I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.